Yeah, I think you know, it was like it was it was the same day, and you were just it was like playing a brand new tournament. That just you're just playing with a new ball style. Actually, can I just restart there? I don't know what I was saying,
Yeah, no
but
worries.
okay,
One second. Let me. I gotta put
here we
pause
go.
for a second. Hold on.
Three,
Wait.
two,
Wait.
I know, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm
Okay. I
joking.
was like, wait.
Three, two. I just love it when I hear you say three.
Don't do that, Bill. Throw me off. We got the opening blooper. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be recapping Elite Dodgeball's West Round 1 for 2019, and here to help me do so is Bill, Ryan, and Sergio Leon. Bill, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? We'll start with you, man.
Yeah, I'm Bill Fischer. I play for Fortune, and I'm from Seattle.
Awesome.
Hey guys, Ryan here. I'm on a new team, the Los Angeles Raiders, playing open 8.5, no sting, and co-ed.
Awesome. And Sergio, go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
My name is Sergio from Los Angeles, California, and the captain of Southern Revolver.
Nice. Alrighty. So, yeah, you guys should obviously be no stranger to the podcast. You've been on here before helping with recaps and whatnot, but just want to go through the motions and kind of wanted to just talk about real quick the women's division. If you've listened or seen the post at this point, I kind of had this really cool thing happen where me and Brenda were talking about it, but we had Karina and Crystal Briones in the background kind of feeding us intel through the group chat, and that made things really helpful. So Sergio is going to kind of take that role, but he might chime in every now and then, and feel free to do so, Sergio. But let's go ahead and just dive right into what I want to ask everybody that participated, and that was, what was the single elimination format like? And we'll start with you, Bill.
Yeah, I love single elimination. I think I love best of 7 more so than I love single elimination. But overall, I think I'm a big fan of the change. I think what's really nice is that it allows a team, one, to adapt. The trend with Fortune right now, it seems, is that we go down like 1-3 and then pull it out somehow. And so like a lot of our work on being consistent and, just following our plan and really just persevering has helped a lot there. And at the same time, it takes away a lot of the impact of some plays like, double outs where, you really couldn't rely on hitting that guard into their corner who is, a rock and is impossible to get out. Like you can't rely on that. And so the teams that can consistently make plays, I think, come out ahead in those situations. So I'm a big fan of single elimination best of 7.
Awesome. Would you say it's like, I don't say like less forgiving, but you have to like pretty much like you said, you have to like earn your win. Like you're not going to chalk something up to like a crazy triple out or, crazy like happenstance play.
Yeah. And I think it has 2 impacts there. So the first being that, when seed 14 now beats seed 3, there is no question anymore of, it's not like, oh, what happened to have that? It's like, oh, wow, that team must have stepped up. Like, I feel like there's more weight given to that lower seeded team's win, right? It kind of gives them more emphasis to say like, oh, you did beat them. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, to beat a team 4 times, like that's pretty deliberate, if you ask me. And I tasted that when I played in Tribune, as I said before, with East, and I think women's as well. So I was very turned off to it at first, but I think the best of 7 kind of really helps kind of curtail that loss of a second chance, or heaven forbid, getting your money's worth. Probably be a different story if it was 2 out of 3. But how about you, Ryan? What were your thoughts on the single elimination format?
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan going into it. I liked being able to see multiple teams in the playoffs, although it did actually turn out well in my favor. My particular team played well in the round robin. Therefore, we got a good seeding in both open 8.5 and no sting. So we got a good seat, and we won both of our games. But it also helped that we would have lost both of those if it were best of three. I think we went down 2-0 or 2-1 in both of them, and then came back and won it in 4-3. So although it worked out for me, it's still, I think, odd that I only got to see that team and then the next team that I got to play. So it can be limiting.
Gotcha. And are you referring to like your match against Gridlock, or?
Yeah, I think we played Gridlock in 8.5, beat them, and then went on to play, I believe, Heat in 8.5. In 8.5.
Gotcha.
What did you think of what did you feel the impact was on the round robin? Like, did your team feel more stressed during it? Like, what was your thoughts there? Because right, like, now your seed is important. You don't get that easy second chance.
Yeah, I think just by dumb luck, we kind of ignored it, and it turned out well. I think had we taken a step back and thought about that, I could see people being a little bit more nervous.
Yeah, I made this comment and question before in the previous recast, but it's like everything counts now. Every game is gonna matter, and for the teams that would kind of sandbag, for lack of better words, during round robin, I feel like a majority of the teams aren't doing that anymore. Would you agree, Bill, or how did you guys take round robin?
We took it pretty seriously. I know I take pickup seriously, so maybe I'm not like the best person to ask. But overall, yeah, I mean, every match felt important, and we talked about like, oh, we only lost one, we should be like in good position, and it's not like, we were very aware that we wanted a good seed going into this, especially coming out of the Tribune. And kind of having already dealt with the single elimination once and knowing how important that seed kind of was.
Yeah, so was that like a good takeaway? When you went back home, you're like, okay, we have a taste of what best of 7 round robin or single elimination looks like. You're able to take that back home to your guys or for the rest of the team.
Yeah, I think we got 2 tastes there. One being you don't want to go to Game 7. If you have to go to Game 7, you're going to be playing directly afterward. Like, either the other team's gone to best of 7, and you're both playing at the same time, you're both exhausted, or the other team has an advantage in that they got to be, cooled down and got, refueled before the next match. So getting that seed helps you prevent going to Game 7 as much as possible. And I think that was a big realization, like, be ready to go. Have your stuff ready. Like, you have to go to this next match.
Gotcha.
Something important to note is the pool you get placed in is pretty important. Our pool kind of had a disparity of sort of some high-end teams and some low-end teams. So I think we lost 3 matches, and all 3 of those teams ended up in the top 4 placing with Crisis, Headhunters, and Rise. Those were our 3 losses, and so everyone else we beat. So I don't know if they should mix those up a little bit more, or how Mark does that.
Would you have any idea of how that was done, Bill? How the pools are made?
I don't know. It's a new season. I imagine it was relatively random, or actually, I'm fairly certain it's randomly generated, all of the pools, from what I know.
Now, is this using Joe Colella's the Colella 2000, or whatever we decided to call it, his software that's not causing, but producing the seeding and the grouping?
No, I don't think they're using that. But I've heard whispers, so to speak. I have sources.
Gotcha.
But,
I will say another point on the pool play was one side finished a little faster than the other. Someone like Justin Pyan was making sure everyone got to their court. All the games were starting on time. But it seemed like you had a collection of people with like-minded, like myself and a few others who are also trying to help get people to courts, get games started. we might want to take a look back and identify those individuals and spread them out throughout the day and the pools.
You also said, like, there was the disparity where you felt you had more top teams and lower ranked teams. Do you think that disparity and probably in turn, like more 2-0 games helped get through that side faster? I know we hit I think every game we lost was like 1-2 or close to it. But I mean, there were teams taking games off us. Like, it wasn't like easy, so to speak.
Certainly wasn't easy for us. I know we had a lot of 2-1 games on probably teams we should have 2-0'd, but yeah, there probably was some 2-0s when you've got Crisis and Rise and Headhunters there.
Yeah, that's a tall order. Crisis and Rise just looking at you from their pool is kind of a, I won't say it like uphill battle for lack of better words, but I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. And I had a question. I just lost it. Oh, not a question, a statement. So Payan, apparently the guy's really efficient at running courts, because this is the second time consecutively that I've heard this. Last time was obviously during nationals, where he was just on top of things and making people get to where they were. So kind of funny and cool to hear that again. Maybe people, as you said, should I don't want to say take notes, but maybe there should be a better distribution of who these people are that are helping run so efficiently. And I wanted to ask, since we're kind of talking about like some of the big changes, this new rule, the burden, what were your thoughts on that? And I'll start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, so there was some confusion. Actually, I listened on the plane ride to Phoenix. I listened to your recap from, I think it was the East Coast, right?
Yes.
And they explained that rule, and I was like on the plane going, "That's wrong," not knowing that I had it wrong. So Serge from Rise did a meeting at the beginning of the day with Mark to clarify that rule. I don't think they've got it right yet. There's a loophole that says if one team has one ball on one side and the other team, let's say, has 4, and there's still a ball off the court, but you still have majority, the clock is in sense frozen, and you kind of can take however long you want to talk, because the clock can't start until all balls get back onto the court. And there were some weird plays where team got 30 seconds to just do what they want, and they can continue to play if they want while they're waiting on that ball. So I don't know. I think they've got some tweaking to do there.
Bill, you're kind of nodding your head.
Yeah, I see that point. I think it's one, probably more prevalent because of that gym that we had, and a lot more of like the balls going across and this and that. Whereas a place like we had for nationals, I don't think that would be as much of an issue. And then I think at the same time, if you're relying on that, to make your plays, like that's, weird. But I think overall it was an improvement for the other situation, which was more common, in which you'd have a team with a big 3 with a 4th ball off the court, and they'd get to throw, and they'd only have to throw one ball. And it could be any one of them, and then their ball would come on the court late, and then they got a free reset just depending on what ball they threw. And so it gave them two timers essentially if they knew what they were doing. And that happened a lot. And that's something as a ref I was kind of confused by for a while, like that you could have this doubled up shot clock just because a ball was off the court. And I think that fixes that issue. Also, most teams, I guess, are calling plays pretty fast. Like I know we know how to say our plays depending on how complex they are pretty quickly anyway. So 30 seconds or 10 seconds, we kind of know what we're going to get across in that same time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and you mentioned a good point there about the I guess let's just talk about the courts themselves. They had rented some poles and nets to be put up to split the courts, but I don't think too much thought was put into like how these things are going to be adhered to the poles. So when we started the day, every ball knocked down the net or the pole or something. And a few people, including myself, took it upon ourselves to like zip tie and tape everything down while play was going on in between our matches. So that was a tough part of that gym.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's a weird factor. Because like not every gym is built the same, and there's always that issue of keeping balls within a court. And if a ball flies off a court that just so happens to be adjacent to a wall, it's going to bounce back in. But if a ball, because I know the ASU gym that you guys are utilizing, that can go on for forever. So it can be really hard to get that ball back in play. And just out of curiosity, so if I'm looking at this through how I would ref this, if there are one team has 3 balls and another team has 2 and the burden ball is gone, there's no play clock until that burden ball gets back in on the court. Is that correct? Like I don't start the countdown until that ball enters the court?
Yeah, it's both the burden and then also if like that ball is guaranteed, that's off the court, no matter which one it is guaranteed to go back to the side that has burden, the clock won't start. So even if it's one of the same color balls is off the court, that clock's not starting until that ball gets on the court. And so now their countdown is for big 4 instead of big 3 with 1 off the court in a possible reset situation.
Yeah, and to continue there, the clock stops when it's the burden side has a missing ball, but if the non-burden side has a missing ball, that doesn't matter. You're out of luck.
Oh, see, I liked it until you mentioned that last part. Yeah, and Sergio's agreeing. He's saying, that loophole will be exploited, and as teams get to know it more and as the rounds progress, I'm sure we'll see a lot of that. And I wonder if that's going to cause a lot of contention and arguing. But because I might be outing myself on this, but like I don't start the countdown until all balls are in play. I don't feel like it's fair to penalize a team for not having them. And Elite, I don't recall a time when it's happened too much, but it just doesn't make sense to have a countdown for a ball that's like lost in the ether. Like who knows where it's at? Like I feel like in order for the game to progress, you should have that equal chance. I could be wrong. Maybe I need to take the test. I haven't done it yet because I'm not going to play till round 3. But I'm curious to see how it's going to develop. And since you guys are talking about rules, there's one more that came up. Let me know if you are willing to address this one. But this whole like traveling players thing, do you guys feel like you have a pretty good handle on that?
No.
Like I don't want to touch that.
No, like I just don't know it well enough. I know like I'm impacted by it now. And so like I was interested in possibly going to the north because Mark Sweetgall is out in Chicago. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll go over there. But I don't think I can play with him on a team because we'd both be Class A players. And so we either have to like make a new team or we couldn't sub together. So I'm not 100% certain on it.
Fair. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. It's a slightly confusing role, but just in general, my own opinion is it's tough to have those good players travel around and kind of be these hired guns. I think like Billy played with Headhunters, and I actually think that was a pretty big impact to the Headhunter team. And I don't know who's going to play with them for round 2 because Steve, I guess you're not going to play till round 3 with them. But I could see them being a drastically different team come round 2 if Billy's not there.
Yeah, it will be, and I'll even throw myself out there. Like when I come and join the Headhunters, I'm not taking Billy's place. That's just not even close to happening. So it's going to change our team dynamic, and we're definitely aware of that. But you're right. I guess I don't want to say I'm a guinea pig, but we'll see how we progress when we do lose Billy. And it's just one of those things where you can't keep everybody happy. And it was a comment that Mark made when he was addressing this. He's like, we want to have it where you're essentially, I don't want to say landlocked, but you're locked with the region that you're in because that's what a professional organization does. But at the same time, we want you to still be able to play dodgeball. That's like, what are you going to do? But another one of those things. I'm curious to see how it develops.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they do round 2.
And I think maybe a point on this that maybe was overlooked is now that with the move to single elimination, that team coming in and doing, if they don't care as much or, they just play around robin a little more loose and they end up at the middle seed and, they possibly come in and knock some teams out in the middle where, wherever like you're denying some teams a chance to move up that bracket and play for points despite yourself not playing for points at all.
Yeah, or taking a team that is going to go away come nationals. That's another good point. Kind of want to backtrack real quick about the whole burden and penalization. Sergio raised a really good point, saying you kind of penalize teams that don't have people that are shagging quick enough for them, and that's something you really sometimes you look out and you have a good player, or not players, volunteers, family, friends, whatever, that will shag for you. But just kind of going back to that consideration as well. Just wanted to air that out there.
Yeah, just have a player jump off the court at the start of the match if you only have 6 players, and have them shag for you. Play with 5
and get all the balls in as quickly as possible. But
yeah, right. That seems like a pretty reliable strategy.
Yeah. Something I noticed over the weekend was some of the clickiness of dodgeball, and that certain teams will shag for other teams but won't shag for some. And I mean, I don't know if that's fair or unfair, but it's just a part of the sport that I feel we overlook a lot. Like I said, the quote unquote clickiness.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. I mean, I'll admit it. I'll shag for Rise just because I've known them for years, but I try to make a mental point to stay on one side, so I'm not just following them. I'm providing the same shagging for the opposing team too because of that. Not so much the clickiness, but just to be fair, because I want every team to have a good game. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I definitely forget that at times too. But at least I try to keep that in mind. And you're right. It's some teams have friends that stake around. If they get eliminated, they'll shag, and some don't. And you can't help that. Your whole role is to play dodgeball. You can't really, control who's going to shag for you. But do you want to?
I wonder if it would be helpful to have. Just calling out, we have calls for refs and line refs as we get to bracket, like, hey, help shag if you can, even if you're not a ref, just get the ball on the court, get things moving, help out in that way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I don't want to, if Mark's listening, he's probably about to punch the, whatever device he's listening on, and he is always saying, please help shag, please help retrieve and whatnot. But, I don't know if there's any other big changes I wanted to kind of gloss over or talk about.
There was a change to the flight kills, but that didn't.
Yeah, did that?
I think for as much as it was talked about, I don't know, we probably reduced it, but I mean, I think I still saw Rise utilizing it, and a number of teams utilizing it in the correct situations.
Yeah, and it's, it used to be called a suicide for a reason. I jump over, I hit you, I'm done. Doesn't matter if you're out or not. It should just be kept that simple, because you just open up a whole can of worms of what could happen in scenarios that just don't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know if we touched on this at the very beginning or not, but just the fact that it's a 2-day tournament now, that we have open on day 1 and now co-ed on day 2, that's kind of a whole new thing.
Yeah, let's go into that. So what was it like going from, a 1-day pretty intense tournament to a 1.5 or 2-day? And
yeah, for myself, I'm not a fan. I liked, keeping it all on a single day, getting it all over with. That way you can go out and party that night.
Right.
And the next day, all you've got to do is explore the city or see your family and friends, or travel, get on a plane, not sweaty and stinky. I'm not sure that I like that 2-day thing, and then trying to figure out how to get home and,
Yeah. I definitely agree with those points in terms of I feel like I can take less time in the city, or I had to take an extra day off. I wasn't entirely pleased with that part, but I did like the fact that, we now have an open no sting division, which, I don't know if we'd be able to get through 3 divisions in a day. I don't even think we get to do that at nationals,
it's
where
tough.
we have all the time essentially. But I think one call out I did have is that day 2, I didn't really get the chance to warm up, just from going through the captains and the refs meeting, and there weren't a ton of balls out at the beginning, and it ended up my arm was already sore from the previous day, and I like locked my arm up just from like throwing too hard too quick before getting proper warm up. And like, warning, if you're playing 2 days in a row, make sure to warm up, because I had to sit for like 4 or 5 matches just to get my arm back to like a normal position. And that definitely slowed me down throughout that second day.
So the physical demand really is evident. It's another element you have to plan for or prepare for going into day 2.
Oh yeah.
And what was the shift or the justification for another day? Is it because they want to go through all the brackets, or because, forgive me, but can one of you guys tell me like what took place on day 1 and what carried over into day 2?
Yeah, so first day was open 8.5 in the morning, and then open no sting in the afternoon. And then the next day was co-ed no sting in the morning.
Okay. So if you wanted to just play pure open 8.5 and no sting, then that's it. You're good. You can go party Saturday night and fly home Sunday-ish, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think some people might start considering that. It was pretty tough to wake up sore and tired the next day. And then, I don't know, something too is that a lot of teams like to play with their open team and then completely switch it up. Don't keep the same players and go play on a new team.
Yep.
For some reason, that just felt, because it was a new day and there were a lot of cool new teams, I don't know, it didn't feel like everyone was taking it as serious the second day, but that could have just been my observation. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know a lot of people say like, oh, I'm only here for open, so my co-ed team's for fun. I hear that a lot, and honestly, that's kind of why we're skipping co-ed, recapping this round. Obviously, there'd be a lot to talk about, and it would be like another episode in of itself, but just for the sake of time and making sure that I'm pretty thorough with women's as well as open. But yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. I hear that a lot, and I'm not sure if you had anything to add to that, Bill, because I did want to ask something else too about day 2.
Yeah, no, I think Fortune at least takes co-ed very seriously. I mean, when we started the team, like we had like co-ed completely in mind for it. So like we were fortunate as the 8 of us, like 100%. And I take co-ed just as seriously as I do anything else. I'm giving it my all. Like I'm leaving it all on that court. Like, cause to say I'm going to give my open team my all and then say, oh no, Lizzie and Kayla are here, so I get to play down. Like, no, like I'm going out there and I'm playing just as hard for them as I am, anyone else.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people echo that as well. For me, it's just another chance to play. And I love it, but I know that some of my teammates are there for open, and that just has to be the way it is for the time being. But I did want to ask you about day 2, and there was a time zone change that the rest of the world did, and Arizona just doesn't want to do it. So what happened there? Because I saw some posts saying Arizona didn't change. You still need to be here at this time. So Ryan, you want to kind of start with that?
Yeah. So I used to live in Arizona a couple years ago, so I was comfortable with it. But as a joke, I posted in the group because I thought a lot of other people, especially everyone at my Airbnb, woke up and half the phone said 7 and half the phone said 8. So some people are like, are we late? Are we not late? Like, what's going on here? So I think that was a confusing thing for everyone. But I don't think anyone was late. So I think we're fine.
It didn't really impact anybody too much from your end.
Yeah. If anything, we were earlier because of it.
Nice.
I woke up at what I thought was 8:15, thinking I was late. For then my teammates to tell me, Bill, go back to sleep. It's 7:15. What are you doing right now? And sure enough, I heard that from a handful of other people. I think Anthony, who's in the hotel room 2 rooms down from me, said the exact same thing. Like, the rest of us they're out like rocks. It's just like he was wording like, no, it's 7:15. They're good. I think my phone thought we were in Denver for some reason, so it didn't swap the time zones appropriately.
Yeah,
that was real cool. But yeah, it's the common story I heard all day of like waking up too early and freaking out and then not getting that protein bar or this or that or forgetting something because of the chaos.
Yeah, a lot of my soldiers had that same problem. Like our phones didn't update, and like obviously we woke up when we were supposed to because we had like night shift to do that for us. But we're just like, we know we don't change. Like what's going on here? So I think that it impacted a lot of people in more ways. I think for some reason the phones weren't on board with Arizona not changing. But I think for the sake of Mark, it's like, well, good, everyone's here now in time. That should be, we should treat people like that moving forward. I think that's all the high level stuff. Actually, no, I kind of have like this weird question I like to ask. Might be difficult to answer, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's just kind of asking your guys' like overall like opinion on what teams or how has the competition changed since the last Elite. And Ryan, maybe I can start with you. Like, just what was it like coming into round one after, a couple months break, after coming from nationals? Just what were your like feelings or thoughts or takeaways, I guess, for lack of better words? I'll work on rephrasing that question in the future.
So what was surprising is in reading the Dodgeball Tribune's power rankings, they did a pretty good job of getting which teams were probably going to be in the top 10. And I would say of the teams he identified, those happened to be the top 10, including some of the new teams, Headhunters, Raiders, Thieves, Crisis. So in terms of surprises, I think everyone knew coming into it which teams are going to be on that better side. There were just an overall a ton of new teams, which was cool. Some players moving around, some teams just gone like Doom. So it was really cool to see some of the new ones, but I didn't see too many surprises in that top 10. Who we thought was going to be there pretty much got there.
Yeah, because and before I go to you, Bill, I just wanted to interject real quick. Like Crisis, we know that's a Titan hybrid. Heat, you got some Doom players on there, so you could kind of interchange them, and it would still be the same. It's just kind of rebranded Thieves being for the most part. So, I kind of agree with you on that one. Even though I wasn't there, I would say this is kind of like the same people, different team jerseys, but for the most part, what you would expect. But how about you, Bill? What was your take?
Yeah, so I think I'll focus on the teams that weren't in the top 10 going into those power rankings. And so, like, Roybots once again finished the best seed I think they ever have from talking with them. They finished in the 13th seed in Open 8.5, nice. Which, like, every single event they've played in, they've had a better seed. I think this goes to the point that they made about Fortune in the power rankings, that consistency, makes a team. So for teams out there that are making teams and we're not going to be the top team, like, why put this team together, this or that, like, teams grow and learn out of just consistency and learning how to play with each other. So seriously, shout out to Roybots. That's not just a PNW thing, but like Ryan, you faced them in No Sting, and that went to Game 7. That was that was a match.
I would echo that. They play great. I've always just saw them as like a middling team, but they really played great in both 8.5 and No Sting. One of the things that I think they do better than almost anyone else is their pump faking across the team is so consistent. Their arms are all coming forward at the exact same time, and you never know where it's coming from. But yes, some of the players that stood out, of course, Roy, Michael Lyons, Will Schumacher, they all played really great. And getting to see them off the court too was cool. I'm always a big fan of the Seattle crew. But yeah, it was nice to see them.
Nice. Yeah.
And then,
go ahead.
Sorry, just to add to that, I have a couple more teams. Misfits came together for the first time, and they were taking games off big name teams, and they took a game off Heat. They took a game off Fortune. They were taking games. So
do we know who they are? Misfits?
Yeah. So most of them are from Seattle. So Alex Wheatbrook, John Bell, Lowe is their captain. And then Kyle Warren, who used to play in the South, I believe, and has now moved to Seattle. He's been playing in my rubber league. And then John Borner and Alex Primo, I think is that team. Yeah, they did well. Like you couldn't sleep on them. Like they know their game. At least the 4 Seattle players, they're practicing a ton. Like I see them every Tuesday, and they're in multiple leagues, and they're playing pickups, and like they have a ton of experience. Like you're not going to run them over like easily.
Nice. Yeah, and just for Steve, Lo, the captain, is female, so it's nice to see her out there captaining a team, really good team.
Awesome. Yeah, I was actually going to ask if Lo is a female, so I appreciate that. You read my mind. I did want to mention, Bill, because you hit on something that's, I don't want to say near and dear to me, but something I've been hearing a lot when I'm interviewing people like Tim Fullerton and Justin Pine and whatnot, and that's teams that stick together and show consistency. And forgive me for being so bold, but I mean, it looks like that is paying off greatly for you guys. I mean, you took second, right? Am I looking at this right?
Yeah, this is our best finish by far.
Right.
I think the response Lou had when he saw in the message that we were in the finals was like, "Wait, what the like?" That's crazy. Like,
yeah, that's scary. They finish in 2 without Lucas. I'm really excited to see when he gets back.
I was gonna ask. You did this without Lucas, not to put a lot on him. Obviously, he's a very talented player, but to do that without him, you're missing a squad member, a crucial one. That was awesome to see and note. That's funny though. What the F? What do you want to real quick? Just kind of what do you want to chalk that up to? Did you guys just practice like crazy? Did you just take in what strategies you could in the off season? Or I mean, I want to say you can't chalk this up to just luck. Like it was a tough practice.
You can't chalk it up to good fortune.
Yeah. Hey. Oh man. Yep.
Yeah. No. I think we've learned to play our game. We've learned to play as a team. We know it works. We know it doesn't. We're pretty open to feedback and saying like, hey, this could have been better. This could have been better. We don't try to make a lot of adjustments the day of. Like we already have ideas going forward. Like we've talked for hours already about like what we can change going forward, but try not to throw a stick in the wheel midday and try to play someone else's game. And just at the same time, we're a team that goes to game 7 often just because we know like, okay, we know we can do this. We know we have the arms, we know have the survival, the situation awareness, and we just dig in and we don't let anything really get us like out of whack.
Nice. Yeah, I was no offense, but when I was I was able to watch the stream. I think Carrie, it was Carrie. She streamed the Headhunters versus Fortune game, and I was able to catch some of that. And I was like, okay, cool. Like they should have no problem beating Fortune. Wrong. Sorry, Bill, but just I could not be more wrong.
I like to hear that I broke expectations in some way.
You did, and it was funny because I remember I was a little delayed, so I was watching like the game that just took place, and I just remember one game. It just looked like all of Headhunters just gave up and wanted to walk out. They just walked out of bounds. I'm like, what is happening? Because I didn't get to see like the full game. I just saw like her angle. And I was like, whatever's happening, they're just tearing the Headhunters apart. And at that point, I kind of figured like, oh, I think we're done. I saw a really awesome catch by Justin. Then he got hit in the face, and I saw Mason come in. And no offense, Mason, but like I knew he just was not prepared to take you guys all out by himself, like his good old days. Like he's coming into a team that has been around for a while, and it's just there's just no chance. And I hate to write off a player like that, especially like my friend, but it's just a whole nother battle, man. Like you gotta.
That was a moment. There was 5 or 6 of us in, and he took out 4. Like he just kept getting balls back. Yep. And there was one moment where the ball, like my job was just literally to get a ball in front of me and not let it hit Brandon De La Mora behind me, and somehow got under my arm and then hit Brandon in the leg. And I was like, this is the exact thing I didn't want.
This is what I did not want to happen. Yeah, that was I was reminiscent of the good old Doom Train days, and that's why we'd call him that, because he would just, once you got him on, he'd steamroll people. And I hope that, and I kind of talked to him offline, obviously. He's definitely motivated to do better, and I hope he does, because it's just, if that's him coming with the cobwebs on, I can't imagine what he'll look like come round 3 and maybe nationals, and maybe that might be our answer to Billy, but given out way too much information that I wanted to.
No, I mean, I think honestly that perspective is like the healthy one. And I think it's one that needs to be talked about more, of like, you should have expectations going into Elite to learn. Like, we had our sub, Sam, and, we were very straight up. Like, we know the thing is, like, you're not going to know situations as well. Like,
Yep.
We're not going to hold that against you. Like, and so any team going into Elite for the first time, you're there just to absorb and learn situations. Like, these teams have played the meta over and over and over and over again, and they know, like, oh, I can't do X because that'll result in Y resulting in Z. Like, just take the time to absorb. Don't even worry about like that positioning. Just learn what you can and can't do, and what breaks you and what doesn't. There's so much to learn in this game. It's not figured out 100%.
Nope. And to kind of caveat or piggyback on what you said, like, it's, again, people like Mason, like the OGs, for lack of better words, are used to being able to steamroll people. But what do you do when that team doesn't budge? They don't give in just because you're charging them. Like, just changes everything. And so it's awesome to see that that's the development, especially for me, who have seen dodgeball progress for so dang long, from 2004 or 5 to now. It's the old tricks that you used to have don't work anymore. You gotta train, you gotta practice, and you gotta change it up. And it's just exciting that I still get to be a part of it this late into the game. But let's go ahead and move on to some of the teams and players. Actually, let me backtrack. What happened to Lucas? Why wasn't he there? I meant to ask that.
He's injured right now. He's taking some time to heal up. So looking forward to getting him back, but he's healing up. He's being patient. He hasn't played in a bit. So
dodgeball injury, or like?
Yeah, like his shoulder is meh. But
gotcha. Well, hope he gets a speedy recovery, and see him in round 2. Scary that you guys went so far without him, but it's a real testament to what teamwork and cohesion can do for a team. So all you guys that may not have had the showing that you wanted and are thinking about reforming or breaking up, take that in mind. Like, just see what consistency and practice can do for you. But
and I mean, to be clear, like, there were doubts, but like, we went and we did what we could with what we had, like 100%. Like,
you brought it.
Anyone that tells you we were 100% confident going in, like,
no.
Even before the Tribune tournament, like, I think the Tribune was a good indicator of like, okay, we can do this.
For sure. All right, so let's go ahead and get into some of the teams, players, and whatnot. And I'm thinking, Ryan, you took a lot of really awesome notes, so I think we can kind of just start there, and then maybe round out with just a quick review of the bracket. But Ryan, you want to go ahead and start with your notes here? Let's just say overall.
Yeah, I'll touch on some of those. So there was a new team called Harikari, I believe. I think in Japanese it means seppuku or suicide.
Yep, seppuku.
I think that team picked up Super Dave as kind of a mentor. Some younger-ish players. So excited to see what they're going to do. They've got a standout guy, I think, in Marshall Winterbotham, I think his name is. I think he played good in all of the different divisions. So he stood out to me.
He played last year with the wild cards, right?
Yeah.
Marshall Witherbottom.
Someone else, Arsenal seemed like they just had almost a brand new team. So they've still got, I believe, Corey, and who else is still on the team? Of course, Eric Jones. But some of the newer players like Terry from Doom, Brett from Riot, Jeremy from Force, and Marco from Shade.
Okay.
And so that was like playing a brand new team. I think they are going to continue to play together and work out the kinks. But they're going to be, I think they'll be a good team later in the season.
And you had a chance to face off against them, Ryan?
Yeah, we played them. I think we played them in most of the divisions. think we beat them each time we played them. But it was definitely some really good games.
How about you, Bill? Did you get a chance to play against the Arsenal, the new Arsenal?
No, for better or for worse, me and Ryan, I think we're on opposite sides of pool play all day. So I did not get a chance to go up against Raiders, unfortunately. I really, really wanted to, because I saw what you guys were doing with the catching game. And
Ryan's smirking right now.
I'm happy we didn't play against Fortune because they probably would have bested us.
Well, I definitely want to talk more about the Raiders, but I want to save that for your match against Gridlock so we can kind of dive deeper into what you guys are doing and
sure.
your team composition.
A couple other shout outs to some LA teams. There's a new team called Snipers. It's got like Markel, Joe Grant, Robert, Markarian, Munchie, and Mitch. Just a bunch of fun guys out there just having a good time. It's fun to play dodgeball against teams like that, and LADC, which has a lot of the guys from EXO, and then they picked up Nick Factorin, Corey Fajerski, Urson, and Jamie. And those teams are just really fun to play against. It's always smiles and great plays, good catches. And at the end of the day, like, that's why I'm there.
Nice. Well, real quick, Connor, which one?
Connor's last name
is,
I'm blanking on that. Give me a second. Heelan, yeah. Connor Heelan, yeah.
Okay. And then Robbie Weber, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Okay. And what does LADC stand for? Does anybody know?
Los Angeles Dodgeball Club.
Los Angeles Dodgeball. Okay.
They play on the soccer team that we have, Los Angeles United.
Actually, speaking of the devil, so no EXO, Sergio? And you weren't here for round one, right?
No, I was not at round one.
Gotcha. Do you want to explain why, or is that personal?
I just, after my team quietly dissolved, through Colin's article, I was able to form a new team for the South.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. And that's why you are the Southern Revolver. That makes sense. I should have picked up on that. That's why you're here, though. Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. And then I wanted to ask about, because you said you're here for all smiles, and then I'm noticing on your notation, and I have a vested interest in this one, Headhunters. Not fun to play against. All scowls, no smiles. So defend yourself, sir.
Yeah, so me, I've played now for coming up on 5 years of Elite, and so I haven't really played against many of the players on the team, at least the bigger names that are coming back to the sport. So it was my first experience with them, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't have a lot of fun playing against them, and I don't know if it was just they were coming out with some cobwebs and they were taking it very seriously, and they wanted to show that they've still got it. But it was a very serious game. It was not a fun, great play, good job, pat on the back. When it was over, it was scowls and let's move on. So I wasn't the biggest fan of the Headhunters. Fair.
I wasn't there, so I can't answer to that, but I can kind of hypothesize with you, and I'll tell you, yeah, we do have a lot to prove because we're coming out of the gates with a bunch of older names, older players, and it's I don't want to say it's grounds to take everything so seriously because I definitely don't do that. That's not my style. But I think there was just a lot to prove, especially it being in Arizona, especially with some of the not commotion or hype that was centered around us. But I think they, since I can't say we because I wasn't there, but I think they kind of established, yes, we're still pretty good. Let's go ahead and move on to the fun aspect of dodgeball. But I will scold them in the group chat after this.
Well, I got a question. Didn't they have Jake Mason on the team?
For no staining. Yep.
Oh, okay.
And I would imagine scowls go away, smiles appear. I would hope.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Well, there was an excellent play that somebody got on video where Jake finished a game by catching Glenn.
Yep.
And immediately Glenn smiling, giving him a hug, and like that's the dodgeball that I like to see. It's like, hey, you caught me. That's great. Not like you caught me and now I'm mad.
Yeah, I think I want to touch on that for a second because you brought up the all scowls, and I saw a lot more like, going through the huddle and like having like fun with teams. Like, we played hard, and the second it was over, like, we were talking and this and that. Like, I wonder, like, one, I think maybe everyone taking the ref test led to like fewer situations of like rule ambiguity and, arguments caused by people not understanding the rules or something. But like overall, like the vibe of the day was so much better than I think I've seen at some previous rounds. Like less fighting on the court. Nice. Play just kind of went. There really weren't a lot of tempers. Overall, like everything that happened, like team to team stuff, this was one of my favorite events.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll chalk that up to the tediousness of the rules, and rules go up, smiles go up, I guess.
Disciplinary committees and people taking their outs because there's video cameras everywhere. Maybe it's because I got that 4K camera. So playing with Fortune, you have every little detail.
Yeah, use that. Between the two of you, not to stir the pot, but were there any meltdowns or any, yellow cardings do you kind of echo what he was saying, Ryan, and with the exception of the headhunters, but was the most part festive and happy?
Yeah, there actually were a couple of yellow cards, and I don't know the details about them. I mean, I'll say our game against headhunters ended in a yellow card. The big guy, I think his name's Brian, suicided Cliff from like 2 feet away, and Cliff just like went down into like a turtle. And Brian just, I think, had too much momentum and just kind of bowled over top of him. And I think his leg did make contact with him, so he got a yellow card by making contact with the other team. But I feel like I heard there were a couple of others that, again, I don't know. I want to say there was a scuffle between Andy and Pyan at some point. I'm sure it was, hugged out, but I don't know the details of that one. I just saw some commotion on the other side of the gym.
Gotcha. But more or less, aside from a couple of small instances, the majority was good. It's, hey, welcome back to Elite. West Round 1's on. Let's play some dodgeball, try to kill each other, and then be friends at the end.
Yeah, for the most part, I think it was a pretty good day. I think, something we also don't talk about much is everyone does like to take their outs, but there's the people who are the common offenders who are like, oh, that team or that person isn't going to take their finger outs or whatever. And as many cameras as you've got, I don't know, it's just not ingrained in certain people to just take those out. So I don't know what we can do to fix that.
Yeah, that's just an upbringing thing, I think, at this point. If you don't take your outs, then I get the not sures. That's when hopefully you look at the player and respect the game enough to be like, yo, did that hit me? Or you look at the ref, or you truly don't know. But if you have a repeated history of that, then not cool. But let's go in.
I kind of feel like there's an average amount of saying, if that person takes a close out like every other time or 50% of the time, then they're probably telling the truth, because I trust that they're going to take that out. But if I'm playing against someone and I've never seen them take a close out, then that makes me question, did you get a clean block every single time?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, maybe with more cameras that might weed out some of the stragglers to doing the right thing, but who knows? But good.
Well, that and like the photos, like right now, if Vince Marchbank is commenting on a photo of you at Elite, like,
ooh, that's not good.
He's nailing you for something right now.
Yeah, he's. I kind of like that, to be honest. I know it causes. It's like swatting the beehive, but just don't do it, or own it. Hey, sorry, I'll get better next time.
Wait, who's he nailing now?
So there's a couple, there's like 3 photos. One was from Nationals 2018 where he commented, interesting, where it looked like it hit the hand on a blocker. And then some emoji reactions to possible pinching of no sting balls.
Oh boy. So. Sergio's saying more photos, the discipline committee, and those outs will be looked over. So that's good. Kind of like what it was one of the AFC championships, NFC Saints versus Rams, that late or that like blatant hit has like a retroactive penalty now. I don't want to get too much into football, but I like that. I like that. Okay, you see it, it's there. Something is going to be done about it. They're not just going to get away scot-free. But yeah, I don't want to spend too much more time on the negativity aspect of it. But I did see notes here on Roybots. Ryan, do you feel like you got a good coverage on them already previously, or was there any others that you wanted to? Because you mentioned like the great pump faking, good team.
Yeah, I think we touched on it when we talked about them with Bill earlier.
Gotcha. Let's see. Let's go into your team. Oh,
sorry, I didn't take as many notes, but I think the two teams that I really wanted to shout out as well. Showtime definitely improved. They were definitely more of a match this time. So shout out to them. And then also in that sense, Grit. Grit took us, I think they took us out in both no sting and 8.5 in the round robin. So nice. Seriously, shout out to Grit. Like, they played awesome. They're a fun team to play too.
They're a fun team to play with. I miss them.
Yeah, and to follow up there, those are LA teams, and right now without Doom, we've got you've got the Raiders, you've got Gridlock, and Thieves, but you've also got like you said, the Showtimes and the Grits, and Doom didn't really necessarily practice a whole lot with everyone else in Los Angeles. So for a long time, it's just been pretty much the teams I just named. And we've been playing together a lot. I know Tori runs practice every other Saturday in LA, and it's Raiders, it's Showtime, it's lots of grit. But I think everyone's just improving ourselves by continually playing a lot of 8.5 in Los Angeles.
So that's how you guys are staying sharp. Then it's kind of what Tori's helping out with keeping 8.5 alive.
Yep.
Attaboy. Thank you, Tori. That means a lot to me, just seeing 8.5 still clinging. But yeah, let's kind of talk more about the Raiders. I do want to know about your match. Let's see. I think it was the first one against. Let's see. Scrolling down in the brackets here.
While you're finding it, shout out to Cliff. I messaged him personally, but Cliff's catching. I watched the Heat versus Raiders match. And Cliff was just a catching maniac. Oh my God.
Cliff Ferry?
Like on his butt making catches in like dangerous situations. Like, Cliff, I want your jersey.
That's a new compliment now from Dodgeball. Like the ultimate, like, I want your jersey. That's awesome. Yeah, and if any more pop up as we're talking, I mean, please feel free to just chime in there with the shout outs. That's what this is all for. But let's go ahead and go into your match with Gridlock, Ryan, because I want to hear more about them, what they look like, and the fact that you took them 4-3. What do you recall from that battle? What was that like?
Yeah, it was a really close battle to start off. I think there was like a one-on-one with Joe Fernandez and Cliff, and Joe Fernandez caught Cliff to go them up 1-0 on us.
Joe Fernandez caught an 8.5 ball?
Yep, caught an 8.5
from
ball.
Cliff on purpose?
Wasn't even his stomach. It was like up by his ear.
Oh my!
And yeah, got his hands on it. It was a really great play. But I kind of feel like we're evenly matched with those guys. Like I said, we see them around, and yeah, so our match with them went 1-1-1-1-1-1, and then
nice.
I think Raiders took the final two to win it. But they've got great catchers. They've got really smart players, in Miles, and Kale, Josh. They just they've got really high dodgeball IQ. So it's always a fun game to play against them.
Yeah, they're a fun group, but if you take your eyes off them or you make a mistake, they'll capitalize on it. And if Joe's catching, that's awesome. I know I'm giving him a hard time, but good on him. And
I I think the only thing that gave us an edge against them is that for the last like 6 months, the Raiders have just been practicing constantly together and working on our game. And I don't think Gridlock gets to practice together as much. I think they show up and rely on, well, we've done this for a long time. We're going to be good, and they do. But yeah, like I said, we've just been practicing together a lot more recently.
Yeah, forgive my sophomore, ness, but like I watched like a 2014 match of like Doom versus Gridlock, and I was like, oh, this team's been around for like ever. Like I did not realize that.
Yeah, no,
I don't know how it took me this long to figure that out.
And Ryan, you have a really good point about teams that have existed for so long. They kind of just chalk up preparation as just the experience that they've had for so long, and they'll just show up without practicing. And eventually now they'll lose to teams that do practice. So I'm glad you brought that up. And again, for the teams out there that are frustrated or not knowing what to do next or not sure, it's practice, man. It's conditioning, it's practice. That's what's going to be the make or break when two teams are kind of even matched in terms of talent. But to go back to what you're saying, Bill, yeah, they've been around for quite some time now, longer, I think. I want to say like 2011, 12 maybe. And I know it's because everybody loves their jerseys. The collar jerseys are like a trademark Gridlock thing, and everybody loves them for it. But let's go back to, do you want to talk about your match with Rise, Ryan?
Our match with Rise, I think we took one off of them. And then we played them earlier in the day in round robin. And we think we went 2-1 against them too. So, they're classic Rise. They play smart. Yeah, like I said, we were able to take a couple of games from them, but overall, just slow and steady wins the race there.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think in terms of my team, we need to slow it down just a little bit and try to play each team with the strategy that's going to fit that style. I don't think you can play Crisis the same way you're going to play Rise, and you need to come in with a strategy of who you're playing against.
Yeah, Rise is definitely slow and steady wins the race, and they will kind of make you play their game unless you can get a good jump on them. Real quick, Sergio saying Gridlock is rebranded Elite 8 team, formerly the Dream Killers, and I'm remembering now that team name, and that's exactly what I hear, Sergio. That's awesome catch, man. Fun fact. So 2011 is about when they started to appear.
To touch back on an anecdote from earlier, so you went 4-3 against Gridlock to go against Rise. Like, how fast did you have to play that match afterward?
Okay.
Did you have time, or was it like straight into it? Because Rise went 4-0 against Arsenal right beforehand. So I'm interested in hearing like what you had to do between the match and how much time you had. And
I don't think it was an entire round of waiting, but there was certainly enough time that I don't think anyone felt rushed. It was just play next, and we were ready.
Cool.
Wanted to ask, let's see, let me go back to Fortune. So your first game was against Thieves, Bill?
Yeah. How was
that?
That was a good match. I think they took the first one off of us, or one of those early ones. But a lot of credit to like Ruan on that one, and just a lot of like, hitting our shots. We had a couple nice opportunities where like hitting the shot and getting the ball back from it. But like a lot of catching. I know Ruan caught a cross court from Glenn to end like one match, and just very Fortune-esque play like that. We got to play our style. We didn't have to make any major like changes or anything like that. Just cool. We know the play. We know what we're gonna do. It was very like step by step for us. And I love playing against those guys. If you watch the match, like I have so much fun playing against that team. That they're a ton of fun to play against, and I look forward to seeing Thieves over and over again. Like those are fun matches. They're definitely pushed me. I think
Nice.
Xander got like around my blocking ball and hit like my back foot on one match. Like
Okay.
it was a weird shot, but he got it. And yeah, I look forward to playing them more.
That's pretty dang impressive with an 8.5 ball. Foam, sure, whatever. You can make that ball teleport if you wanted to, but with an 8.5, that's gnarly. And they seeded 8th, so obviously they did pretty good for 8.5 not being their thing or not being their preferred ball choice.
Glenn was catching all day. Like every time I'd be watching a Thieves match, Glenn was making catches. He's nuts.
Just a black hole of balls to catch. Well, speaking of teams whose 8.5 isn't really their thing, what can you tell me about Heat?
Okay, so that's the match I watched right before this, just because I knew that was going to be like, the 1 seed going down to Fortune. That was, now it's all going to go right out of my head, huh?
Since you put you on the spot.
Yeah. Vince did a great job of like, I don't know, like playing against Vince is something else. But there were some times where we got him out, or they would take those shots off the rush, and they'd either hit them or Mark would somehow survive it. That was always, I don't know how Mark does it. Mark's staying alive. Mark Sweetcall on Fortune, just to make that clear.
Okay, I was like, Mark Acomb?
Yeah, like once again though, like a lot of it shows our like perseverance. Like I think we went down 2-0. We came back and tied it up 2-2. They took the next one, and then we took the next 2 back to back. We got lucky in game 7 where a ball hit, I think it was Hodge or someone, and bounced up, and Vince tried to catch it and I guess went off balance and couldn't make the catch. And so we ended up with the double out. And actually, I'm trying to see someone. Yeah, I think Ruwan really stood out in that match. Like the whole team really, like, we played our match, we played our game, and we persevered. I'm really proud of us with that match.
I was literally going to say perseverance overcame for that match. Yeah, because I was wondering what happened. I was expecting, with Vince being as much of an impact player as he is, I was not surprised to see Heat take first seed. I was expecting a little bit better of a finish, especially after all the meme talking that took place. But I'm curious what's going to happen now. Like, they're going to go back and regroup, and then are they going to come out stronger, or are they going to kind of sit? I think they're tied for 5th right now, so I'm just curious at what changes they're going to make. Because I know one thing about Doom is that they'll change and adapt as needed when something isn't working. Same thing with like teams like Rise. So I'm not immediately going to write them off. Definitely going to give them some fire memes in the next coming days, but I'm just curious to see how it plays out. But
also, like, shout out to Isidro. Like, he says he's not an 8.5 player, but
whatever.
he was making catches that were gnarly. Like,
that guy
it may not be his ball, but it's a ball he does well with.
I wish I could just watch what it's like from his point of view and just experience what he's experiencing when he snags balls out of nowhere. Like, he can go on such a hot streak and just catch virtually anything within like a 3-foot radius of him, or he'll run across the court and still snag a ball at some that you're not even trying to throw that at the guy, and he'll still gobble it up. But that's what I like because they obviously like foam, they like no sting, but I like seeing them do really well in 8.5. It's just good to see that talent kind of go across all 3. And Cedro, if you're listening, man, you are an 8.5 player. Maybe not by preference, but he's still a pretty solid player. Kind of want to go back before we go into the final match. Obviously, Crisis is going to be a team I really want to talk about. But were there any other teams that stood out that we haven't really covered? I know we kind of talked about some of the more Pacific Northwest teams, and this can go to you too, Ryan, as well. But any teams kind of like in this second wave that we haven't really addressed? I know it was awesome seeing Yastuvo come back. Bummer that they took out my old team Grit, but also kind of cool and of course they would have to face Headhunters. So there's not like a rivalry or bitterness, but there's like a friendly competition going on between those two teams since way back in like 2009. So unfortunately I missed that. But what other teams were out there? Like I saw Smash, Dystopia.
I got a shout out to Havoc. Like Havoc seems like in the entire tournament, especially Tim. Like, I don't know if maybe like they just like stepped it up. Like they were a tough team to face off against. Like I saw intensity from them constantly. Like they were going for everything. They were following through with everything. There was like a lot of power in everything they did. Like nothing was easy or given up easy. Going for every catch. Havoc is a solid team.
I agree. And the change from not having Brody to adding Kenny was, I think, changes their dynamic just a little bit.
Now, does that change them into being less offensive, more?
So I think they put Kenny on the corner, and I want to say Andy kind of plays that middle arm like Brody did, which changes them and actually puts Andy a little more at risk sometimes. So I saw him going for a lot more dodge plays than being able to block from the corner with the ball. Gotcha.
And was Daniel Ronk there? Is he still?
Yep.
Okay, so he showed up. That's good.
To touch on Rainbows, I think took Headhunters, went down to them 3-4. That was kind of surprising not to see them towards the top, which I'm typically used to seeing them there.
Yeah. So when I tuned in, I was either messaging Nate or Carrie, and I was like, "Hey, where you guys at? You know, what's going on?" And you're like, "Oh, they just 4-3'd Rainbows." Like, oh, that's pretty big. So who's left? Because you expect Rainbows being top 4. So I was excited when that happened. That was a great win there. But can you kind of walk me through that? Did you get a chance to see it, or can you kind of comment on how the Rainbows looked overall? I mean, with Brandon there, that guy's a monster. He's fun to watch. I don't know how he throws without dislocating his elbow and his shoulder. But how'd they look overall?
8.5 from what I could saw. From what I saw, they played normal as I would have seen them. But they're no sting. I don't think they're the biggest fans of no sting, so They didn't look the best at no sting.
And Bill, any comments on them? I think they're. I won't say that. I always associate you guys as like the same group, but there's like a huge difference in time and location. But any comments
with
on
Rainbows and Fortune?
Right.
I mean, so before like Fortune was formed, like, and we had we would play like P&W teams constantly, like when they were Tacos and Pizza, and they came as Rainbows before the first time Fortune ever played together at the Seattle Dodgeball Classic. So, I mean, we've played with and against them in various forms for at least the 5 years I've played together. And, I mean, I know the Portland-Seattle rivalry goes on for years and years and years, and has not always been as nice as it is now.
Right. Is speaking of rivalry and whatnot, is Michael Koyev still a piece of crap? Still a bad person? Don't answer that. I do have a serious question though. This is for both of you. Bill, were you Team Taco or Team Pizza? Before Sergio asks.
Oh, I'm from New York, so I'm Team Pizza, man. Like,
nice. If
I didn't say that, like, I wouldn't be allowed back in that state.
Fair enough. How about you, Ryan?
I would call myself Team Taco.
Team Taco. Sergio, I need to pull you back online. What are you? I don't think we ever established that.
Are you asking me what team am I on?
Yep, Team Taco or Pizza?
Taco, it's all day.
All right. Now that that's out of the way. Before we move on to Crisis, because I'm sure that's going to take some time, is there any other teams that I might have overlooked, or any players that we might have, I won't say ignored, but just kind of glossed over that you guys want to mention?
I don't think we've talked much about Downpour, but they weren't in my bracket or my pool, so I didn't get to see them much.
No. Yeah, I was going to ask about James Alston. It's great seeing that guy and seeing him still compete. but I guess we'll have to check out some highlights and see how he did, how Downpour did. Looks like they seeded 11. That's pretty good. How about you, Ryan? Any teams or players you wanted to highlight before we move on?
No, I think that's good.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get into Crisis. So I just want to preface this with, I would think about what kind of team it would take to beat Doom and beat the constant reigning champion, which with the exception of last year was Rise, but for the longest time it was Doom nonstop. And so I was just like, what kind of team would have to come together to make this happen? And I guess we got our answer with Crisis. What do you guys think about that statement before we begin?
Crisis is a different beast.
Yeah, this 1,000-yard stare look in your eye, Bill.
Well, I mean, kind of. It's so different to play against them than it is any other team. At least from Fortune's perspective, and the teams we faced off against, there's not many teams that can play that style. I think the closest one I would say is Rainbows in a way, where Rainbows will want to force that pace to pick up. They want to play fast, they want to play fast, they want to play fast, they want to make you play that speed because they know they can come out in situations. I think with the Crisis, they want to speed up the game because with someone like Ketchum, his kill distance is crazy. I saw him taking 40-foot shots that were uncatchable.
He can kill you from the parking lot. Yeah, he can take you out of the It doesn't matter where he is. It's yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. And so with them forcing situations, they're going to come out ahead because most of the time when they're picking up the pace, they're forcing that right side to be looked at. And you can't sleep on Ryan. Ryan knows his stuff. He's putting that pressure there. He will take that out. You have Brody and Tad and all of them in the middle that can catch. You're not getting easy outs on this team.
No.
If you play their pace, you're going to lose. You have to do something different. You cannot fall into their trap. They are a hole, and the second you fall into the hole, you're done.
Yeah, I love their logo. I don't know if this is a planet just getting destroyed by meteorites, but that's a ball that Ketchum's throwing. Just constant heat, just
That's
bombardment.
A perfect illustration.
Yeah, it's I hate to say it, but yeah, it's a sick looking. It sets the tone for that team, and I'm kind of looking over Tyler's spiel on them, and just to kind of skip over, he just says, top to bottom, there is no team in the country that boasts as much talent as them. And with Ketchum, Pyan, and Brody leading the chart, that's like the three horsemen of the apocalypse.
There's 4.
I know there's 4, but I'm only reading Ketchum, Pyan, and Brody. So the fourth, I mean, it could be Tad. It could be is Mike McGee on that team? I think that's part of the whole rule thing, but we'll just say 3 for now. Let's let them figure out who their fourth horseman is. But that is just that's a lot.
Tad played really well this weekend for Crisis, and I agree with you guys. They're a fast-paced team. I think that's why I think Raiders can play well against them, in that we can also be a fast-paced team. I think they crushed us at 8.5 when we played them, but in no-sting, that was our very first no-sting game, and I think I wouldn't say this is a weakness, but they skew to a younger team, and coming out for the no-sting, I don't know if they were just kind of easing into their day or what it was, but Raiders 2-0'd them in no-sting to start off. Right off, we were like, whoa, did we just beat them? That's insane. Now, if we played them in 7 games, they would crush us, but it was shocking to beat them, in that if you play fast and can hit those shots and you come up with some crazy catches, you can beat them, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of things have to align for you to get the upper advantage on them, playing fast and connecting your shots. If you're putting 4 balls and catch them, you sure as crap better hit them. Otherwise, you're going to pay for that. And I know this is from practicing. Headhunters we have the fortune and misfortune, as I said in a previous episode, of getting to practice with them. So it makes us sharper, but at the same time, it would be nice to not die during every practice or not feel like we're going to. But they definitely if you can slow them down and kind of just, I don't want to say, because it's different with Pine. And I made this comment during the Tribune recap. I don't know if you might remember, Bill, but it just seems like there are a bunch of cannons kind of vying for who's going to throw. But then you throw Pine in there, and I think he kind of brings stability to that and control. You're not in your head. So, like, I think you know what I'm talking about. Like, that was missing in the Tribune. It was obviously there for West. So, from what you've seen, just playing against them and watching, do they look like they were more controlled? Do they even have to be? Or was it just like, as they've been saying, a complete sweep?
Yeah, I think every time I saw Ketchum get out, Pyan was like, okay, like I am going to lead this court now. And we're like, I don't think they really huddled until Ketchum got out. And then Pyan led that court. But, you know, I'm only going to see so much.
Right.
But that having him be the guard on Ketchum is absolutely crazy. Like, shout out to Rowan for doing as well as he did against that combo on that right corner. Like, that's death. It's staring you in the eyes right there. What is that, ranked 1 and number 2 on the last year's power ranking?
Yeah, that's a great combination you want to fight.
It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
That's crazy.
You know, sorry to jump in there. I think some, like a team like Rise had kind of, when they came along, from what I hear, had kind of set that tone of like, now we play with corners and here's the new style of dodgeball, and you got to slow it down to get the wins. Crisis, and I don't know if this is how it was back in the day, have like a brand new style of like, you put your cannon right in the middle and you just let him light people up. And as long as you can protect him, that's what you do. Now, is that what Rise does with Chris Bell or Stott? Probably, but for some reason it just feels so much more overpowering with someone like Ketchum.
So to answer that question for you, Rise's style used to be put Timmy in the middle, and they used to call him the presser, and his sole role was to did I just call him Timmy? I meant Tim. That's 2007 me talking, but he would be there to just draw fire because he was so good at blocking, so good at dodging. He would do that, so you'd expend all your ammo on him, miss, and then they would come at you with whoever was on the team at that time, their cannons, so to speak. So it used to be big throwers on the left and the right, and your best dodger / berserker, whatever you want to call him, in the middle. That's obviously since changed, so kind of cool that you brought that up. But I didn't want to interrupt you, but I did want to throw in that little fanboy fact right there. I wanted to say real quick, actually going back to Crisis, so they have all this power, right? But then I think when you have Ryan there and Tad, I think they bring an intelligence to the team that without it, they would just be, I don't want to say like easy to beat. If you can survive the onslaught, then you can overtake them. But because you have Ryan, because you have Tad, it's like you said earlier, like not every out's going to be easy. You have to fight for every single one. And curious to see how it's going to play out with rounds 2, 3, and nationals. But before we move on, do you guys have any other comments about Crisis or any other teams? I think Crisis was what I wanted to say for last. So, any thoughts there, Bill?
Well, oh God,
just still reliving it.
Still with us? Still with us?
I'll leave it at that. Just God.
Yeah, no, I'm having like flashbacks. Like, someone has a video of me like trying to block a shot of like, I think that Pyan threw, and like I like jumped and had the ball down, and like it basically made me one of those birds that like drinks the water out of the cup, and like forced me onto my stomach. Like, it hit me so hard, like just hitting my blocking ball rotated me in the air, and I was like on my stomach. I'm like, okay, this is absolutely nuts. So yeah,
fair enough. How about you, Ryan? Any final thoughts on Crisis or Open overall?
No, they're clearly the number one team right now. I think you've got Crisis as 1, Rise as 2. I think the next couple of spots, you've got Fortune and Heat and Rainbows up there, but I think Havoc, Headhunters, I even think Raiders even all have a shot to do really well and finish towards the top in the next couple of tournaments. Seems like we've got the set, maybe at least the top 9, 10 teams are going to be your top 10 teams for the West.
Yeah.
I think one thing to call out, and we talked about this earlier with new teams, in that like playing together consistently is going to improve you. And this is Heat's first 8.5 event. And the first time I think we've seen Vince play with Heat. I don't know if there's been other events. This is the first one I'm aware of. And like, I expect them to be even better like the next time we see them. Like, I don't think we've given that credit to them yet, that this was their first go. So I look forward to seeing them and what they do.
Yeah, as I may have said with Payan, I'm pretty sure Vince has that element that he's gonna be like, okay, let's re-examine what went wrong, and show up having learned better of ourselves for round 2, and definitely not writing them off. And you look at who's tied for 5th right now: Heat, Rainbows, Raiders, Havoc. I mean, it can go to anybody. I think Crisis is probably gonna stay on first for rounds 2 and 3. That's my prediction, but 2 through 5 is open to anybody. But do you want to actually go over, so let's go over the last power rankings, and we'll kind of close it out with this possibly. So power rankings: 1 was Rise, 2 was Crisis, 3 was Heat, 4 was Rainbows, 5 was Fortune, 6 was Thieves, 7 was Havoc, 8 was Gridlock, 9 was Headhunters, and 10 was Raiders. So now that you guys had to kind of live this through, I'm looking at you, Ryan, what would you say the newest power rankings or updated ones would be?
Yeah, I'd say you flip the top 2. You put Crisis as 1, Rise as 2. Fortune jumps up a lot because of how they finished in 2nd place. So I put them at 3. Heat, I think, did pretty much how they thought they were going to do. But Fortune taking that 2nd place, I think, jumps them above the Heat. Rainbows, I think they dropped 1 place just to have Fortune jump up there. Havoc did pretty much status quo. Headhunters, I think, jumped up because of how they finished. The Raiders, I think, at 10, I think we jump up to about 8. And then I think Thieves and Gridlock drop because of their losses. They probably didn't finish as well as they wanted to. But it's still anybody's game there. And then you've still got Downpour, Arsenal, and Grit kind of on that borderline, trying to break into that top 10.
Just waiting
but
for
we'll
that.
See how they do.
Yeah, just waiting for that team to drop and show up stronger with lessons learned for round 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, the bias portion of me from Headhunters wants to say, no, put us up there like 6th or 5th maybe. But as we just talked about, you can't write off Heat as much as you want to. There's just too much experience in that team to, I think, rein in the younger guys, get them focused on whatever they need to do to get better, and they're still going to be a contender and not go anywhere.
I mean, Headhunters' biggest thing is going to be, what do they do without Billy for round 2? And yeah, because I think he was a game changer for how they performed at round 1. And so I'm really excited to see what they do in round 2.
I'll give you some insight on what exactly we're going to do, and that is, we'll figure out later. But that is probably why, like I said, as much as I'd like to see top 5 power rankings, we're probably going to be 7 until we figure that out. And the good thing is we've got a lot of practice to do until then. But Sergio made the comment, Vince will give Heat the stability like Payan gives a Crisis, and that is very cool, very terrifying. And but I agree. So otherwise, it's going to be the same Heat team from last year, and I don't think anybody remembers them. So that was some shade, by the way, Heat, if you guys are listening. How about you, Bill? What are your thoughts on top 10, at least with what's presented here? Would you agree with this, or what would you shift around?
My main, I think Havoc is lower rated than I would want them to be, but I don't know where they would go. Like, you have Crisis at 1, and that seems solid to me. And then 2 through 6. Sorry to both of you at 7 and 8, but like that next 5, like it's nuts. That next 5.
Right.
Havoc was, they lost to Crisis in single elimination, and I think if they didn't face them, they would have had a deeper run, just from the intensity I saw them playing. But like I didn't get to see a lot of Rainbows, but from what I know of their play, like it's yeah, I don't know. They're kind of in that crisis boat where they want to pick up the pace, and I think they belong in that mid 2 to 6, but does Havoc belong above Rainbows? I also, where did Rise fall to? Rise fell to Crisis, right?
Let me see.
Yeah.
And this,
right,
yeah.
like Havoc taking 2 off Crisis. Havoc was the only team to take 2 off Crisis. Like, just to call that out. And I think that's a fact that's like gone under like appreciated. Like everyone else went 4-1 against them or 4-0. And so I think Havoc has like I think they're going to have a better season than the power rankings giving them right now. So maybe I bump them to 5 and Rainbows at 6. I look forward to seeing my fellow PNW players soon and to hear why that's wrong. But I know I'm going to hear it.
You will pay for this, Bill.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, like, I don't know. Like, I want to see Rainbows and Havoc play. If that video is out there, I'm going to watch that. But both those teams are different this year, right? Like, Rainbows had their swap at Nationals. Havoc having it this year. I don't know. The top 4 is going to be I don't think it's set. Like, I think Crisis is up there, Rise is probably up there, and then that 3rd and 4th spot is up for grabs by anyone. Like, there's no guarantees.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I agree. There's a bit of a line in between 6 and 7 there to say any team that's 7 and down is going to have to step up their game to be able to break into that top 6, because the top 6 I think are pretty established good teams.
That, and I think there's going to have to be some upsets. Crisis is just going to have to eat crap on round 2 for some of these teams to get into the top 2 or top 3, I think. And yeah, we'll see if that happens. So, as I might have prefaced, I might have to reiterate it in the post and whatnot, but I really don't want to go too much into no sting. My focus right now has just been Open 8.5 and women's, to just make sure we give those divisions their due and not try to keep everybody on here for 3-4 hours at a time. But I do want to at least kind of somewhat talk about no sting. Let's start with you, Ryan. What were your thoughts here? I'm looking at your notes, so we can kind of start there. Just real quick round robin, highlight teams that you wanted to mention.
Yeah. Okay. So, no sting, I think was a fun time. It was just like it was like replaying the tournament over again. You're just playing with a new ball style. A majority of the teams finished, I want to say, pretty close to where they did in 8.5. But I think there were noticeably some teams who kind of dropped off. I don't think no sting is their ball. And there were some teams that kind of finished better than they did at 8.5. So like Thieves, I think, did pretty well at no sting, and they're pretty much a no sting team. So you would expect that.
It's funny because in the group chat, or maybe Nate was talking to me, he's like, yeah, no sting's dumb. We're not doing it anymore. And so teams that dropped off, Headhunters, like, yeah, we're not, this is not our ball and we're not going to try. So there's definitely that. I definitely agree with you there. And I don't want to say it's kind of good. I don't know how this comes across, but looking at the brackets here. Yeah, it's talking about Heat not being down for the count. Like, they took 3rd, so that seems to align more with where they belong. But what about you, Bill? What are some of your thoughts on no sting?
Yeah. One, we got to play against LADC first, and they are such a fun team to play against. Like, I look forward to seeing them play more and more, especially because we, picked up Robbie for Fortune for our Tribune run. And, we were throwing catches at him despite knowing exactly what he was capable of. So shout out to him. Like,
Robbie Weber, you said?
He's awesome. Say again?
You said earlier that was Robbie Weber?
Robbie Weber.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then I think we kind of hit the same the same issue that Havoc faced in 8.5 is that we hit crisis early, right? So we finished like the 4th seed of the day for no sting, and then hit crisis. Like we probably should have faced around later, so to speak. But thanks Ryan for taking them out in that early match.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was just like to start the day, and it takes a while for you to get your grip right to say, oh, now I'm holding a no sting ball and not an 8.5 ball. So it could have just been a lucky thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at.
Takes a lot of luck to beat crisis with just luck.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be a very, very lucky person for that to happen.
I've seen your highlights, Ryan. Don't be modest.
Like you were saying earlier, Cliff just had an insane weekend. Tons of catches, tons of kills. It was a team thing, but Cliff played great.
Oh God, Sergio's like, you can say it doesn't take luck, but good fortune. Yeah, we went there already, Sergio.
Yeah, well, even good fortune lost to crisis for.
Yeah, I think your fortune ran out there with 4-0.
I mean, this is the same with all sports, but these numbers don't really tell the story. So the Raiders lost to Heat here 4-0, and 3 of those games came down to a 1-on-1, where it could have been anybody's match. So yes, it says 4-0. It looks like we got crushed, but was actually a lot closer than that.
That wasn't the case. Yeah, and East panel said that, and so did Brenda. For me, the outsider, looking at a piece of paper, I see 4-0, 4-0. I think, shutout, sweep. But as you're saying, the reality of it was, no, there was a lot of battles down to the last person. So thank you for pointing that out, actually. Before we move on from no sting, let's just talk about the power rankings real quick. Ryan, if you just kind of want to breeze through them real fast, because there is a little bit of a difference here that I see from 8.5.
Yeah, I would say the top 3 are very similar to the 8.5, and you got your crisis, your rise, and your heat. Even though the no sting isn't Rise's best ball, they played well, and I think they still finished second place there. Havoc still at the top. Thieves did jump up and actually finish there in 5th. I think they played great. Fortune, as you know, is going to be a top team. Raiders, we played great at no sting. So we finished at around 7. Some new teams now. We've got Downpour and Showtime showing up in the top 10, and they both played really, really great to get in there. So nice. Good to see Showtime in there. And then Rainbow's coming in at 10. I just don't think it's their favorite ball style. And then on the borderline, I would say you got the Roy Bots and Grit just barely missing out.
I'm so happy to hear that. Like, I think this is the first time Roybots has had a mention in like that top 10.
Right.
Like, you saw it in your match, Ryan. Like, what's his name? Not what's his name. I know it. Alvin Bryan, who just joined Roybots for this round. I think he's playing more with them. I think this is like his first real no sting event, and he killed it with a no sting ball. Like, he does not practice that, as far as I'm aware. He is on my comp 8 1/4 foam team. He was on my rubber team. He's known for, winning the class I would not say for work twice, but doesn't have a history of no sting. And I think everyone was pleasantly shocked with his display.
This might upset the other regions, but I can think of no better place to get baptized in no sting than Elite West round 1. Like, this is where you go to get thrown into the fray. But I kind of echo what you said. I like seeing Grit at the consideration for a borderline, top 10, just because playing with them last year, it was, hey, let's just try to get middle of the pack. Let's just do better than we did last time, and to see that improvement continue is awesome. I'm always going to be pulling for them until we play against them. Then I must crush them into the ground. But until that day comes, it's good seeing that also. So definitely feel you there, right, Bill.
And I would also add some noticeable misses that we just don't see here, like the Headhunters, Arsenal, gridlock who do pretty well in 8.5 and just don't make the cut here.
Actually, I'm glad you said that because Sergio said something really cool about Rise, and that is very true. And that is, though Rise is not a no-sting team by design, they have a blueprint that clearly works in most all forms. So this is a great testament to that. So to rag on my team, I'll just rag on my team and nobody else. Like, yeah, if we want to contend, we have to be able to do so with any ball, any rule style. And you get that blueprint or you get that core, whatever it is, figured out. That really shows your cohesion as a team and your skill, instead of just saying, "No, it's not my ball. I'm not going to play." Yeah, but to each their own. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but that's just my observation there, kind of aligning with Sergio's.
Agreed.
Well, I think that's all I have. I kind of wanted to cover Showdown a little bit, but I think I'm going to wait until we get a little bit more closer towards like the last four, and you can actually watch those rounds, because it's just like watching it's like a turkey shoot. I haven't really had a chance to follow that too well. But before we wrap up, and we'll just go down the line, start with you, Bill. Any final thoughts, any observations or outlooks towards round 2, or takeaways, or what are you gonna think about this weekend now that round 1's done?
Yeah. I think a lot's going to be making the adjustments that we noticed. At this point, like if you don't, after round 1, you should really be coming up with a plan for the teams that you didn't face off well against, and really try to understand like why. I know I'm going to be doing a lot of that now. We took video of almost everything, and tighten up things, and this is the time to work on feedback, not day of. And I'm going to be diving into every single video we did and really trying to get that. And at the same time, like I look forward to seeing these brackets shuffle around and seeing how teams face off against each other. And I don't know, like we said earlier, like the top 6 to 10 teams, like they can all contend with each other. Like no one's a walkover. Yeah. Like it's a hard day. Like you got to bring your all to every single game to come out ahead. So I look forward to round 2 and to show consistency. Like hopefully Fortune can take another second place at least. Keep climbing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'll jump in there. So overall fun weekend. I think Elite made a lot of good changes in some of the things that they did. I hope they continue to tweak it and improve it for what's not quite working out. Something I hope to see for all the teams, we specifically built our team because everybody lived in LA and we could practice together. And I hope that pays off. I hope the teams that are able to practice together and work on their game improve, and the teams that kind of just throw a bunch of hired guns together from all over, I'm hoping that plays into their not success. Whereas teams that get to practice together, hopefully they can build and grow. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm on board with that, and that's one of the main reasons why I left Grit. And I told On when I agreed to play with him last year, I was like, just so you know, I'm probably going to be like a 1 to 2 year commitment, but I'm definitely going to leave you for an Arizona team because I want that, especially as I keep saying, I'm like maybe 1, 2, 3 years left. I want those to be spent building an Arizona-based team, and the Headhunters is a really convenient way to kind of have that as a platform or a launch pad. But I definitely agree. The teams that play together consistently, practice together, even go so far as to hang out and socialize together and form that true team cohesion, I imagine, and I kind of hope, are going to be the teams that actually come out ahead. Rise being a great example. Yeah, they import Alan and Chris and Chad, but they also fly to San Diego to do their little boot camps or practices, and it shows. And I realized this after years of watching Doom. Like they were always together, they were always playing together, and I think that's going to pay off. And we'll see. We'll see if Crisis is the team that says no, we can get people from anywhere. It doesn't matter, or we'll see what happens with the following 2 to 10 slots. But yeah, I agree with you, man, on that one. But yeah, I think that's all I got. Guys, thank you so much for hopping on and taking such copious notes. This excites me. I love seeing this. It makes it helps me capture as much as possible. So it's definitely not unnoticed and definitely not. It's definitely appreciated. So I look forward to the next one. I'll just leave it at that.
Got it. Thanks, man.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for putting this together.
For sure. And then Sergio, thank you, man, for hanging out in the background and giving us intel. I like it. I'm gonna fly with this, but
I'm glad I can help out. Even though I wasn't there this round, I mean, I was just doing everything I can, and you guys did a great job with the notes and the recap. So,
for sure.
Kudos to you, Bill and Ryan.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was what I hope would be a very thorough recap of the Elite West Round 1 Open tournament, Open Division, that took place on March 9th and 10th. And first off, congratulations to Crisis for taking first, Fortune for taking second, and Rise for taking third. And since we were able to kind of just barely cover it, congratulations to Crisis for taking No Sting first, Rise for taking second, and Heat for taking third. Don't feel too great about skipping co-ed or foam, but a lot of that just had to do with time constraints and just being able to, I don't want to say this might sound mean or hurtful, but I don't want to focus too much on those divisions just yet. I want the majority of my focus to be Open 8.5 and Women's, and I'm kind of bummed it took me this long to figure this out, but I think having the Women's division covered separately with its own panel or soon-to-be panel is the way I want to go moving forward. That way, our panelists don't have to just wait in the background and sink hours of their evening waiting for a chance to speak for 20 to 30 minutes. So definitely am proud of this new format. I really hope that it's received well. Ryan, Bill, guys, thank you so much for taking the notes leading into this recap. I think that probably helps the most. And Sergio, thank you so much, man, for always giving feedback, for always fact-checking me, especially after the fact, and I can't do anything about it, but now you can. And on that note, so when I say people are live in the group chat, for those that actually want to participate, until I figure out how to stream these events, you're more than welcome to join us in the chat. We can put you on mute, and you can kind of just feed us intel on your team, on your observations, and we'll just kind of talk about it in real time as we're having the panel discussion. This is a great way for people to participate who may not have the sound setup that I'm looking for, or if you're shy and don't really want to just kind of throw yourself out there, this is a great alternative, and I'm really happy and grateful for being able to try that out with the women's recap with Crystal and Karina, and then again with the 8.5 with Sergio. Anyway, a lot to cover. I'm definitely going to keep working and figuring out how I can cover more. As usual, again, one last shout out and plea for Tyler Greer. I use the power rankings for the Elite West region in 8.5 article a lot for this recap, and it was very helpful. So I love having articles. So please help with those. Anyone that's interested in doing so. And yeah, Elite is here. So I look forward to recapping North round 1 as well as South round 1 as they come. In the meantime, have a great rest of your evening, a great weekend, and we'll catch you next time.
Oh, I do have one more person that likes single elimination, 2 days, best of 7 stuff, and that's my physical therapist, who gets to see me more often, and he's loving this.
Nice, and we have our closing blooper.